A welcome update as of R1 2025 is the ability to use custom fields on compliance records. So just like you would set up any other custom field, you go to Platform Services, click into Custom Fields, click on your little add button. But for your object to extend, you're going to select Compliance Record. The next step then is to decide which data field type you want. So whether it's checkbox, a date, text, whatever it is. And then on your next step, you're going to give it a name. If it's text, it asks you what length you want. So how many characters you want the maximum to be. So let's just call it test for now. Give it a length of 30. And then in the next step, it asks you where you want this to appear. So there's only one tab that you can put it on, but within compliance records, you can put it on compliance details, I believe, is probably the most one that's going to be used here. And then you would save. So once you have a custom field saved, then with the object of compliance record, if you go to purchasing, setup, and click into your compliance types, so let's say it's a lien waiver that you wanted this custom field to appear. You would edit here, and then it gives you the option to add that custom field to this specific compliance record for this compliance type. So I had one created before this, which I have set up as the date so that I know when the lien waiver was emailed out. So I have a sent on date that I'm going to add to my lien waiver template, my lien waiver compliance records. So you would just do that here and save. So you can have, different custom fields if it's insurance, different custom fields if it's lien waivers, if it's miscellaneous. So you would just create the custom field first with the object of compliance record. And then within the compliance type, you say which custom fields you want to apply to which compliance types. So that's a nice new feature.
Also, there have been enhancements to the time and materials billing. So on a time and material billing transaction, the summary billing details tab has been enhanced to include more detail at the project contract line level and the related expense entry line number. So don't forget to update the summary billing details so you get some information to populate in to the transaction. Otherwise, this will be blank. And then don't forget, you can click on these green links to take you back to the source documents. An enhancement also has been made to edit the layout of the columns. So if you want to add some more fields up here for visibility, all of these down here in the details are available to be added up here in the column format shown above here. Don't forget to apply the layout when you make those changes and hit Save Layout. Another new enhancement is related to the summarized and non-summarized contract lines and being able to report on that detail. So if on a project contract line, you are using the summarize to a single entry feature, you now can report on that information and see the exact details when you do the invoicing and you create the customer invoice. Previously, you could only view non-summarized time and material expenses billed on an invoice. Okay, so now they have allowed that. If you've summarized, you can see the detail as well. And finally, on the source and attachments tab here, I can now select all my attachments. I can hit download selected attachments, and it's going to create a zip file for me for the related attachments. I can also email out the invoice form.
One of the new features in R1 is the ability to add secondary vendors to your primary documents. So first things first, you're going to want to go to Accounts Payable, Setup, Configuration, and then scroll down to enable joint checks. You want to make sure that you have that turned on. Once that's on, you can go to Purchasing, go ahead and create your subcontract. And once you've created it, if you go back in, you'll see that there's a tab now for secondary vendors. So on your secondary vendors tab, you would put in whoever that is, whatever the name is. You can override this joint payee print as. If you just want it to be on call construction, that's fine, and post. Once you then convert your subcontract to an invoice, it's going to flow through to AP. And in accounts payable, then it's going to push through to the joint payee tab. So there's a joint payee tab then, because you've turned that on in accounts payable configuration, where that pushes through from when you set up your subcontract. So it can be overridden here as well if you'd like. And then when you go to make payments on that, so I can actually just pay it right from here, you can change the payment method to joint check, and it should come up there. And then when you select it, you can edit on the payee details. So it's just automatically going to go to Cardinal because they're the actual vendor on the subcontract, but you can change it here. You can say maybe you want to pay them $5,000, but you're sending $4,000 to Cardinal and On Call. So that's how you would do that. So that is some new functionality, and then that record is maintained on the subcontract. So you can go back to purchasing, subcontracts, and you can see that information on the secondary vendors tab within your subcontract. So very useful for construction companies.
So now let's talk about the enhancements to the work in progress or WIP management tool. So under projects, WIP management, in the WIP schedule now, they have added some new fields. They've added period billings, period costs, period earned profit, and period earnings. They've also added your project begin and project end date. So the period billings, period costs, these amounts right here are going to be your monthly amounts. Also, don't forget that you can change the layout of the columns in the fields that are showing on the layout level here. So don't forget, you can use this and you can now move these new fields up here into the grid. Okay, so don't forget about that. Also, now you can refresh and it will save your work automatically. So don't be afraid to hit the refresh button now. It's going to save your CFO values, your different columns, instead of not saving. Finally, in project setup configuration, they have given now an option to use different offset accounts for costs in excess and billings in excess. So you have two new fields down here instead of one over under net account for the income statement.
This next highlight for Sage Intacct 2025 Release 1 targets specifically the specialty and service contractors. Inside the Sage Field Operations, more commonly known as SFO, there's a new graphical enhancement. They have added a graphical map view. Let's take a look. Within this view, you're going to be able to see assignments on a map view. You're going to be able to view and toggle between work orders and jobs. You're going to be able to edit and add assignments right on this screen and quickly filter the assignments that are shown on the screen. You're also going to be able to see where your technicians, your employees, and your vehicles are with real-time GPS tracking using the mobile app. Here's a visual of what the screen is going to look like. So you're going to have a map view. You're going to be able to zoom in and out. You're going to be able to specifically click on the individual assignments, whether they're work orders or job assignments. Search the area. And then over on your left, you'll see a list of all the work orders that are on your screen. And you're going to be able to key in some filters for maybe particular departments or locations, and then also toggle left and right here by just work orders, just jobs, or all. So this is a very exciting feature that we're all looking forward to and hope you do as well.
On this 2025 Release 1 video, I'm going to show you the new checkbox that's been added to the General Ledger Journal Entry screen. This checkbox here, the Disallow Direct Posting, will prevent direct posting to specific journals. If it's selected, users will not be able to create entries for the journal through the Journal Entries page in the General Ledger. It will also prevent the creation of journal entries through imports or API. Once you've selected it and hit Save, you'll notice the Disallow Direct Posting column will show you all those that have been checked.
This next highlight for the 2025 R1 release involves new additional options for ACH file generation inside cash management. You're now going to have the option to select multiple bank file formats that you can use to upload to your banks. And this has been, historically, this will be dictated by your individual bank and what they require for a file. And in the past, before this release, we could only do an unbalanced file inside Sage Intacct for ACH generation. Now you're going to have the ability to select what is known as a balanced file or an unbalanced file, and with what is called an EOF marker, or without an EOF marker. And again, your bank is going to let you know, and please reach out to your bank and ask them, what Nacha file format do you require, or which ones don't you require? So let's go ahead and take a look at this and what you would need to do moving forward to make that switch over. So I'm going to end this show. And what I would recommend doing first is going into the release highlights. And I'm going to take a look over here, and you'll see on your home page in Intacct, I'm going to hit the home button. So when you come into here, you'll see this coming soon 2025 release 1. Go ahead and click on the read release notes. Now this will show you all the highlights for 2025 R1. So feel free to explore this as well, or watch our full video on our releases. But if I scroll down here, you're going to see a generate Nacha ACH payment files. And go ahead and recommend clicking on that. And the reason so is, number one, it's going to tell you kind of the files, what we're explaining now. It's also going to tell you what needs to be turned on and enabled inside Intacct and what permissions and roles are needed. But the most helpful link is over here, and it's this related information, this transition to Nacha ACH formats. In a lot of cases, you probably already have the ACH set up in your system, and you've been making do or manipulating the file or something like that. So if you do have an existing setup already in ACH, please reach out to us through Ask Richard, or take a look through these instructions on basically a guide to how to transition from your current ACH payment setup over to this new format. And what's nice about this is going to go into the configuration, how to enable it. And it's also going to go into down here what to do. So basically how you can re-import that information. So you don't have to re-key all the banking information and all the setup. Through update vendors and employees bank files, you're going to be able to update that information into the correct format. So how it works is if we go over to our instance here and we go into cash management, I've enabled the bank files. Actually, let's go and take a look at that real quick. So if you go into to enable it, you're going to go into company, admin, subscriptions. And you'll need an admin role, admin security to do this. And you'll scroll down to the bottom here, and you're going to see the Sage Cloud Services. So inside here is where you could configure some of those features, like bank feeds and other features in the system. But if I click on here and click configure, it's going to show me some of the setup. So I already have bank feeds enabled, for example. So along with that, you're going to see another row here called enable bank file payment. And this is what needs to be enabled right there. So you would just enable it and click save. At that point, you can go into first of all, your bank account. And so you can go into, for example, a checking account in cash management. And I'm just going to pick one of these bank accounts. Let's pick this WF2 checking account. I'm going to click edit, and you will see a bank file tab. Now, if you already have it set up for ACH payments, you'll have this already turned on with all your banking information in there. So what you would need to do is flip it over to enable bank file payments. And then here, you can select which format you want to use for this bank. So we can say a balanced file. And once I do that, it's going to pull up all the required information, just like it did in the ACH file that you'll need to fill in. And typically on the bank side, you just go ahead and fill it in. If you need more information or clarity on what is in those fields, you can reach out to your bank, or you can click this, what can I do here? It's very helpful in that it will go through and show you the different files that and what they mean, okay, and where to get them from. So definitely use the help on this setup. Once you enable that bank files, you'll say save. And then the only other area you'll need to flip it around, and this goes back to that transitioning instructions if you already have this set up, to use that so you can import that information in. But you can also do it manually. So if I was, let's say, doing construction payroll through Sage Intacct construction payroll, I might come into my employee setup in time and expense here, and I'm going to actually go into the GC entity where I have some employees set up. And once this opens up, I'm going to move over to the employees. So time and expense employees. And in here, you'll see that I have a bunch of employees. And let's say for Robert Jones, I'm going to click edit here. And inside the employee, you're going to have the reimbursement information tab. And you'll see your ACH or bank file setup. And again, if you already have this set up, this is kind of how it's going to look with the ACH. If you need to flip it over, you'll then come into here and flip that over, what country, and then again, it will pull in the information that it needs. Notice it does not grab the information from the ACH payment over automatically. And that's where the import template can come into play. So there's a way that we can get that information out and import it back in. That's all in those instructions that you saw earlier. So it would need to be flipped over on both ends like that. And then you would do the same thing for your vendors if you were paying any via ACH as well in your vendor setups. And I'm not sure if I have anybody in here, but let's take a look. And let's just go take a look at my vendors, which are at top level. So let's go take a look at my vendor list here. And I'll just go into Buffalo Building. I'll click edit. And once that opens up, you'll have your bank file tab, and it looks the same as you saw before. Here's your existing information if you're currently set up as ACH, and then enable, and it's the same look that you saw in the employee setup. I just wanted to show you in both areas. So that is it. You'll be able to go through that process. There is a slightly different flow as far as when you get to cash management now. You're not going to be in this area like you were in the past. You'll be in this bank file area, but the same process goes into play. So this is a nice feature that a lot of companies were waiting for because some of their banks required balanced files. So looking forward to having these options inside Sage Intacct. Thank you.
Another update as of 2025's release 1 is the ability to draft customer payments within your bank transactions. So if you go to the cash management module and click into bank transactions, you're probably going to want to make sure you're in the cash in view here and select a transaction, assign it to a customer. And I'm just going to say Amazon for this. And save. And then on that same transaction, I'm going to receive payments. And you can see the ability here now to draft that payment. So that wasn't there before. This is new functionality. So you can click create draft payment and post that through. And then in your accounts receivable module, if you click into posted payments, you can mass select all of your drafted ones and you can post them. So from this posted payments page, this is where you would select and post, or, you can select it over here and delete it if you need to make changes to it, or if you're not ready to post it through. So that is some new functionality for R1, is the ability through your bank transactions to draft customer payments.
In version 2025 release 1, now we have access to 3 different versions of the variance report. To get to those reports, you will first have to install them from your Quick Start library. Caveat is that your system was provisioned using Quick Start library. So go to Applications, GL, Financial Reports, and then top right, click on Quick Start library. Go to the last page. Reports are listed in alphabetical order. And you'll see, close to the end, you see 3 different reports here. Variance analysis by department, and by location. Let's pick the first one and click on Install. On the next screen, you can give it a name, label, basically the way how you'd like to see it on your reports menu. Click on Save, and you'll get this prompt that report has been saved. Let's go back to GL, Financial Reports, go to the last page, and you'll see that the Variance Analysis report is there now. Let's preview it. There you go. There's a new column there for year-to-date actual minus budget. Values are color-coded. Depending on our size of the variance, we're going to have a lighter or darker shade of green or red, depending on the dollar threshold. This can be modified and colors can be changed, or different shades of the colors can be changed depending on the value.
In this last R1 2025 video, I'm going to show you a few things. First, I'm going to show you the new enhanced list feature. You can see this throughout different lists in the applications, but today I'm going to preview it with you on the vendors list. So you'll notice this turn on enhanced list, select that. Your view will slightly change. You still have filtering options, sorting options, as well as your views. You can still manage them, personalize them, and save them. But the newest feature is going to be these two tabs here, the List View and Split View tab. So you select the Split View, and a side-by-side view is going to come up of the list and the record. You can still scroll through the list, as well as preview the record on the right. So that's a nice, easy feature that they've added. If you want to go back to the other view that you're used to, you just click on this list view and it'll take away the split view, and you'll see here turn off enhanced list, and now you're back to the view that you're used to. A couple of other things I'm going to show you on the user interface. They've made some changes. In the project setup screen, you'll notice a new tab. It's the Resources and Billing tab. That tab is the Resource and Pricing and Invoice Options tab that you used to see. They've now taken those and combined them into this one tab. Same functions, just under one tab. In the WIP schedule, they made a couple of wording changes. You see now the update CFO values with CFO values from prior period. That used to say update CFO values with CFO prior WIP values. And now you'll see the update PM values with PM values from prior period. That used to say update PM values with PM prior WIP values. That's a wrap for the R1 2025 videos. Our next release will be May 9th. If you have any ideas or things that you would like to see changed, please comment and let us know. And as always, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.